IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives. If you're struggling with your own tax nightmare, we've got great news. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Purple Politics, hosted by political expert and commentator Alina Gonzalez-Dockery. Join us to discuss the most important issues affecting our nation with fresh, balanced, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Purple Politics starts right now.
Welcome back to another episode. I am thrilled to be here with you. I am your hostess, Alina Gonzalez-Dockery, and we are less than 50 days. Yes, 50 days from Election Day. And it's still going to be a whirlwind. From Oprah Winfrey to another assassination attempt. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of what's been happening, and then we'll get into the weeds of things. So Vice President Kamala Harris sets out to visit Michigan for a Unite for America event with Oprah Winfrey, aimed at registering voters and rallying support for her presidential campaign. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump is in Washington attending an event focused on fighting anti-Semitism, hosted by Republican megadonor Miriam Adelson and the Israeli-American Council. Trump is meeting with Jewish leaders and pundits, and this is despite having his previous controversial remarks about Jewish people and also his claim that Democrats hate their religion if they continue to support an agenda which is pro-Palestinian. And if we all been watching all of the rallies or something, one thing is for certain. Trump is this, you know, he's just a, what do you call it? A showman. You know, he sends a lot of bombastic things, but he's still out there. And this is despite yet another assassination attempt. No, there were no shots fired by the individual, but security is definitely in the news headlines once again. And post-debate polls showed that Harris still maintains a very slight lead over Trump in the national average, just by 2 percentage points, which is well within the 3 percentage points of error. And in battleground states like Nevada and Pennsylvania, the race remains tight with little movement resulting from the debate. So despite Trump's bad performance, it hasn't really moved the needle, and Kamala's performance hasn't moved the needle. And analysts suggest that the debate has not significantly shifted voter opinions in key states, leaving the candidates neck and neck, fighting for those undeclared or undecided voters. In economic news, President Joe Biden, doing a little happy dance, addressed the Economic Club in Washington, highlighting the Federal Reserve's recent decision to cut interest rates. He celebrated the move as progress toward economic recovery, but cautioned that more work is needed. Biden's remarks focused on signaling a new phase of the economy without declaring an outright victory, but his joviality could definitely be seen and heard. Postmaster General General Louis Defoe defended the Postal Service's preparedness for handling mail-in ballots ahead of the election. Despite concerns from both parties, DeJoy cited a strong track record for processing election mail and dismissed allegations from Trump that the USPS cannot be trusted. DeJoy, a former Trump donor, has faced criticism from Democrats for operational delays and calls to step down. A new ad campaign called White Dudes for Harris. Hey, congratulations, white men. It's okay to be a white dude, apparently. So White Dudes for Harris has launched, targeting you guys in battleground states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The $10 million campaign aims to counter negative perceptions of white men and criticize Trump and his supporters for perpetuating harmful stereotypes. The group is part of a growing pro-Harris grassroots movement since she became the Democratic presidential nominee. And for the last little synopsis, in Ohio, Springfield officials granted new emergency powers following a series of bomb threats linked to debunked rumors spread by Senator J.D. Vance and Trump about immigrants. The threats have disrupted public services, leading to the temporary closure of City Hall and schools. Governor Mike DeWine has sent the state police to address safety concerns as the city grapples with ongoing security issues following the spread of these false claims. So let's get into some of the depth. So if there you go. There's your highlights. Feel like ESPN on, Monday morning after a lovely game, day of football. So campaigns carry on despite apparent assassination attempt on Trump. In the aftermath of a second assassination attempt, which is insane. Let's just say it. We have not had an assassination attempt since Ronald Reagan, and now we've had 2 in 2 months. Donald Trump political campaigns resumed with little disruption. Following the Florida incident on Sunday, Trump thanked law enforcement and quickly turned to fundraising, while Kamala Harris condemned political violence and expressed relief that Trump was unharmed. Despite the event, both candidates returned to their campaign schedules, with Harris addressing the National Association of Black Journalists and Trump holding a town hall in Michigan. Harris mentioned that she checked on Trump, reiterating that political violence has no place in the U.S., which is very true. When asked about her confidence in the Secret Service, she affirmed her trust in them, despite going off rail about total not answering a question, which is Harris's MO. Despite the recent attempt on Trump's life, polls showed little change in the close race between the two candidates, with strategists suggesting that the incident was unlikely to sway voters significantly. Both Harris and Trump have solidified support within their respective parties, leaving little room for movement in the polls. Okay, can we just talk about this? The fringe on both sides are going to be locked in. MAGA, they're locked in with Trump. Progressives are locked in with Harris. Even if you were to go straight party line, Democrats and Republicans, that's still less than half of the registered voters. 48% declared independent, non-party affiliated. That's where everybody's going to go towards. That is where the meat of this election is going to fall to. The recent attempt echoed a similar attack in July, where Trump was shot at during a rally in Pennsylvania, temporarily boosting his standing among Republicans. However, with the election just weeks away, political observers believe that the outcome will likely depend on future developments, not past events. Trump's rhetoric, blaming Harris and Biden for inciting violence against him, has stirred further controversy. And let's face it, when you have Hillary Clinton out there basically saying that Trump will be a dictator, everything needs to be done to defeat Trump, he is Hitler, he is this, does not help. In spite of poorly made jokes or observations by Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, or others, the truth of the matter is that you're painting 50% of the Americans that are Trump supporters as these, domestic terrorists, evil, violent people, which in fact they're not. They're not. The vast, vast majority are not. But when you're painting someone as Hitler, when you're painting someone as a threat to democracy because they're going to be a demagogue or what have you, which is not the truth, that tends to cite and provoke people's fears and neuroses to a point of violence. We have not, thankfully, seen anything on the flip side, on the Democratic side, but this is a major screaming sign that we need to put both sides, everybody needs to just step back, stop saying rhetorical, emotive statements to get people fear-based, which unfortunately both parties are about monarchy of fear. Media is about the monarchy and fear. And rather than distilling that fear and saying, okay, let's get back to a calm, respectful tone where we once were, not too far away, like Obama years. We were able to agree to disagree. We were able to respect different opinions. We were able to support different candidates without having hate and screaming and violence or yelling or two attempted assassinations on a candidate. And we're not even going to get into all of the rest of the lawfare and things. Kamala Harris had a much stronger debate. And yes, we are still talking about the debate because that will most likely be the only one. But the polls aren't moving. And why is that? Because most people are already set on who they're going to vote for. And there's just probably a small percentage of undecideds. So though Harris outperformed Trump in the debate, according to the polls from the New York Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and Siena College, the presidential race remains tight. While Harris has a slight edge in Pennsylvania, leading by 4 points, the national race is deadlocked at 47%. Harris performed well with key demographics like Black voters, younger voters, and women, but her debate success has not yet shifted the overall momentum of the race. Harris's debate performance earned her high marks from 67% of likely voters, while Trump received positive reviews from only 40%. Even traditionally Trump-supporting demographics like white voters without college degrees or other Republicans gave Harris favorable reviews. And everybody, even conservative talk shows have stated that the debate performance by Trump was disappointing. But despite this, the polls are not moving. They are still largely split. The deadlock is especially apparent in battleground Pennsylvania, where Harris's 4-point lead mirrors her standing from August. And despite the debate, the performance is still there. Nobody's really moving. Now, what is interesting is the Gallup poll. The Gallup poll shows that favorability has significantly dropped for Harris among independent voters as compared to Trump. I'm Alina Gonzalez. There's your summation of what is left to be dealt with in 50 days or less. I'm taking a quick break. Tune back in so we can getting to know who's siding with whom. I'll see you right back.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now, you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Okay, seriously, second assassination attempt. And now Congress is debating the funding for Secret Service, which is in charge of protecting not only the president, the vice president, but also presidential candidates and former presidents. The recent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump has sparked a heated debate in Congress over funding for the Secret Service. As these discussions unfold just 6 weeks before the presidential election, the issue has become highly politicized. With a looming government shutdown deadline, negotiations over federal spending are further complicated by the debate on whether the Secret Service needs more resources to protect Trump effectively. Republicans have accused Democrats of fostering an environment of anti-Trump rhetoric, leading to incidents like the recent arrest of a man with a rifle at Trump's Florida golf club. They argue that Trump is not receiving the same level of protection as President Biden, despite the Secret Service's assurances that Trump is protected at the highest level. Democrats, meanwhile, are willing to increase funding for the Secret Service, but challenge Republicans who are focused on cutting spending to support it. Some Republicans, like Senator Roger Marshall, claim that the Secret Service already has enough personnel and resources, and the issue lies with prioritization and leadership, not funding. House Speaker Mike Johnson echoed this sentiment, but also expressed readiness to approve more money if truly necessary. In contrast, Democrats are advocating for additional resources to fill staffing gaps and address other challenges the agency faces, like high turnover rates. The Secret Service has confirmed that Trump has been receiving top-tier protection since the first assassination attempt in July, and they insist that the agency needs more funding to sustain these efforts. Acting Director Ronald Rose stated that the agency has long been stretched thin and additional resources are necessary to cover travel, overtime, and protective equipment. The Biden administration has also called for more flexibility in Secret Service spending to prevent a shortfall. This debate comes amid broader struggles in Congress to pass a stopgap spending bill before the government shutdown deadline at the end of this month. Efforts to pass a temporary funding measure have so far been unsuccessful, leaving room for negotiations to intensify. Both parties are expected to continue talks with the White House to ensure that funding for critical government functions, including the Secret Service, remains intact. Ultimately, while Congress debates how to handle the Secret Service's funding, there is bipartisan agreement that Trump must be adequately protected as the election approaches. However, disagreements over the source of the agency's challenges, whether they stem from funding or leadership, continue to divide lawmakers. And also, there is still the issue with the fact that the committees investigating the first assassination attempt have yet to receive any reports as to how Butler could have even been such a short-sighted debacle. Let's talk about J.D. Vance. The combative conservatism is shaping Trumpism 2.0. Senator J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate for VP, has emerged as a prominent figure in the evolution of Trumpism, often using sharp and confrontational rhetoric that appeals to a younger online generation of conservatives. His aggressive style, shaped by his tough upbringing and a desire to connect with disillusioned voters, has made him a key player in shaping the narrative for the 2024 election. This approach, while controversial, resonates with the base that finds comfort in his attacks on media and political opponents. Vance's rise in the Republican Party has been marked by his ability to mix chest-thumping aggression with moments of a more restrained, happy warrior persona. He targets mainstream media, yet maintains a tactical politeness with reporters, letting his supporters do the loud criticizing for him. His attacks on issues like immigration and vaccine mandates have made him a favorite among conservative social media influencers and younger Trump supporters, filling a void for a more combative, younger voice in the GOP. His online fame has also made him an influential voice on platforms like Fox News and with figures like Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump Jr., further elevating his status. Vance's willingness to push boundaries has been evident in his statements, like his viral opposition to vaccine mandates and his embrace of controversial, unverified claims, including those about Haitian migrants harming pets, which have drawn criticism for the incendiary nature. Vance's political strategy often involves using provocative statements to shift focus onto issues he believes are being ignored by the media. This was demonstrated during a CNN interview where he admitted to creating stories to draw attention to concerns, even if the claims were not fully verified, like the Haitians and pet stories. His comments have both been praised and criticized, reflecting his belief that amplifying certain narratives is crucial, even if the facts aren't always clear. In the wake of assassination attempts on Donald Trump, Vance has also taken a lead role in attacking Democrats for allegedly inflaming political violence. He has blamed Vice President Kamala Harris and her party for the hostility faced by Trump, contrasting it with the absence of similar threats against Harris. Vance's fiery rhetoric, while resonating with the Republican base, has also drawn huge criticism for further polarizing the political climate. Ultimately, Vance's role in Trumpism 2.0 reflects the challenges and opportunities of a new generation of Republican leadership. His mix of online savvy, controversial statements, and willingness to go on the offensive has made him a polarizing figure, but one who is reshaping the future of the GOP. As the 2024 election approaches, Vance's influence on conservative politics continues to grow, with both support and opposition sharpening around his persona. And whether Vance can actually turn the page, not trying to take anything away from Waltz's wife, or open himself to saying, yes, I want to be a unifying force, that is still to be seen. Because one thing is for certain, Vance he probably has more poise and posh on how he goes on the offensive, but he also loves his sarcasm. He will be a figure in the Republican Party, in the new MAGA Republican Party, for many years to come. Federal debt is soaring. Here's why Trump and Harris aren't talking about it. The one topic that no one seems to be addressing is the federal debt. The U.S. federal government is accumulating debt at an alarming rate, despite not facing a crisis, war, or a recession. This year's budget deficit is set to reach $1.9 trillion. That's trillion. A level historically seen only during major events like World War II and the COVID-19 pandemic, when the world literally shut down. Publicly held federal debt has now exceeded $28 trillion, almost equal to the country's GDP. Without intervention, the national debt is projected to increase by another $22 trillion by 2034, and interest payments could soon surpass defense spending. Yet presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are not seriously addressing the debt in their campaigns, focusing instead on expensive promises to voters. Actually, the only candidate that was focusing and bringing a lot of attention to this and showing that at some point all of the revenue will be going to pay interest was RFK Jr., excuse me. Economists worry that the rising debt could push up interest rates, slow economic growth, and hinder the government's ability to respond to future crises. There are already warning signs, such as the downgrading of the U.S. credit rating and tepid demand for Treasury bonds. While Harris has proposed some fiscal measures that could offset her spending plans, Trump also offered no such strategies. Both candidates, however, pledged to protect major spending programs like Social Security and Medicare, while also proposing tax cuts, including extending the current 2017 tax cuts, which would further increase the deficit. Trump has made several new promises of tax cuts, such as exempting tips from taxation, which Kamala has also echoed, ending taxes on Social Security benefits, and lowering corporate tax rates for U.S. manufacturers. These proposals would add more than $2 trillion in tax cuts on top of $4 trillion to extend his first-term cuts. Harris, meanwhile, has maxed some of Trump's proposals, such as the tip exemption, while also pushing for an expanded child tax credit. Now, that expanded child tax credit is $6,000 for the first year of a child's life, only 1 year. Whereas JD has proposed a $5,000 child tax credit for those that are caring for a minor child all the way up until 18. Both candidates are avoiding the political risk of addressing the deficit despite its increasing urgency. Why, would you ask? Part of the reason the federal debt hasn't become a more prominent political issue is that feared economic consequences have not fully materialized. Interest rates remained low until 2022, and the U.S. dollar is still the world's reserve currency, giving the country more leeway than others. Borrowing helped the economy weather the 2007-2009 financial crisis when the real estate bubble burst and the pandemic. And voters tend to reward politicians who provide tax cuts and stimulus, even if it means adding to the debt. However, the next president will face significant fiscal challenges, starting with the need to raise the federal debt limit in 2025. Failing to do so could trigger a fiscal crisis. Additionally, the expiration of 2017 tax law at the end of 2025 could lead to higher taxes for most households if Congress doesn't act. Despite these looming issues, both parties have been reluctant to address this deficit. Historically, there were times when both parties worked together to control the deficit. Historically, we're talking 20 years ago, people. I love when, like Kamala says, this century. We're 24 years into the century. We've had experienced bipartisan deals in the 1990s that led to a balanced budget under President Clinton. Oh, those days of when people worked together. Yes, that is what we need today. However, the political landscape, one thing is for sure, the deficit is growing. The payment on just the interest alone will soon outgain what revenue we receive for this nation, and serious budgetary issues are going to have to be dealt with. I am Alina. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll talk about some interesting endorsements and those that didn't come through. Tune back in.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you. Call 800-749-7781. That's 800-749-7781. Call now.
How would you like to go on a 5-star vacation for just $99? We're talking about the quality of a Westgate resort for $99. Not for one night, but for 3 fantastic nights at one of their luxurious destinations across the United States. And you'll even get a free $100 Visa gift card just for making a reservation. We've got some of the choicest destinations that you'll love in the United States that you can choose from for just $99 for a 3-night stay. Take your family, take a special loved one, but get away. Go on vacation with Westgate Resorts. Call now to make a reservation for just $99 and you get a free $100 Visa gift card. Call Westgate right now and book your vacation. Here's the number.
Call 877-930-3491. That's 877-930-3491. Again, 877-930-3491.
For the first time since 1996, Teamsters will not endorse a candidate for president in 2024. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters, one of the largest labor unions in the U.S. with 1.3 million members, announced it will not endorse any candidate in the 2024 presidential election. This decision marks a break from tradition, as the union has supported the Democratic nominee in every election since 2000. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien explained that neither Vice President Kamala Harris nor former President Donald Trump made sufficient commitments to prioritize working people's interests over big business. The union's decision is significant, as both major political parties have been heavily courting organized labor ahead of the election. Despite polling showing a preference among Teamsters members for Trump over Harris by a margin of more than 25%, that is significant. The union found no universal support for either candidate. While the Trump campaign has pointed to this as evidence of broad support, the Harris campaign emphasized the vice president's strong track record with unions, noting her active support for organized labor, including walking picket lines. Historically, labor unions have been a core constituency for the Democratic Party, with the GOP often viewed more skeptically due to its harsher stance on workers' rights. Most other large U.S. unions, such as the United Auto Workers and AFL-CIO, have already voiced their support for Harris. The Teamsters' decision to withhold endorsement stands in contrast to this broader trend within the organized labor. In a unique move, Teamsters President O'Brien spoke for the very first time, making history. A president of the Teamsters spoke at the Republican National Convention in July, which drew mixed reactions from labor experts. Some saw it as a bold strategy to bring a pro-labor message to a large audience, with others criticizing it, given the GOP's historically antagonistic position toward unions. Of course, that is the old viewpoint of the Republicans, because Trump does resonate very well with the blue-collar working class individuals. This involvement with the Republicans added to the complexity of the union's political stance. The union also sought a speaking slot at the DNC, the Democrat National Convention, but were denied. And again, like I stated, this is we have not seen the Teamsters not endorse a candidate since 1996. And while it has primarily supported Democrats in recent years, it has occasionally endorsed Republican candidates like Ronald Reagan in 1984. Yes, 40 years ago. The Teamsters' decision reflects a shift in organized labor's political engagement, with workers' concerns about job security, wages, and benefits driving their decisions more than party loyalty. This neutrality could signal a broader dissatisfaction within labor groups as they seek more concrete commitments from political leaders. And the uncommitted group says it will not endorse Harris over Gaza concerns. The Uncommitted National Movement, a pro-Palestinian group, has decided not to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 election due to concerns about her stance on the Israeli-Hamas war. The group criticized Harris for not responding to the request to meet with Palestinian American families affected by the conflict and her refusal to support an arms embargo on Israel, our most staunch ally. Despite this, the group also opposes Donald Trump, citing concerns that his agenda would worsen the situation in Gaza and suppress anti-war organizing. Well, Trump also was the first president to acknowledge Israel as a country and Jerusalem as its capital. So that makes sense. The movement's frustration stems from Harris's alignment with President Biden's Middle East policy, particularly her support for Israel's right to defend itself. The group launched in Michigan, a key battleground state, where its anti-war stance resonates with the large Arab American and college-age populations. While the movement's leaders are divided on whether to vote for Harris or skip the top of the ballot, they continue to focus on building an anti-war coalition. Despite the lack of endorsement, the Harris campaign has emphasized its efforts to engage with Arab American and Muslim communities. Harris's spokesperson have reaffirmed her commitment to ending the Gaza war while balancing Israel's security needs with the Palestinian right to dignity and self-determination. That could also happen with Hamas no longer being a ruling class in Gaza. But I digress. Harris's campaign has received endorsements from other Arab American and Muslim leaders, though the uncommitted group remains critical to her stance. The uncommitted group's decision reflects a broader tension within the Democratic Party, with progressive activists frustrated by the administration's handling of foreign policy issues like Gaza. The group had previously mobilized voters against Biden during the Michigan primary. Remember, the primary that really wasn't a primary because Biden was the only candidate that people could really vote for. Again, Harris wasn't at any of those primaries, despite what Pelosi says. The Harris campaign has attempted to address these concerns by facilitating the discussions and meetings with Arab American leaders and hosting panels on Palestinian issues. However, tensions were reignited when the group's request to feature a Palestinian speaker at the Democratic National Convention were denied. While the uncommitted national movement continues to advocate for policy changes regarding U.S. involvement in Gaza, they are urging voters to avoid supporting Trump or third-party candidates. Their ultimate goal remains to influence. So basically what they're saying is, oh, you're not going to go my way. You're not going to allow Israel to fail. We're not going to vote for you, but nobody else vote for anybody else that might give an edge over Trump. Gotcha. Those of you who know, I am very much a strong supporter of Israel defending itself. It is the only country in this world that seems to still have to ask for permission to defend itself from attacks that have been increasing via Hezbollah and still from Hamas. And when you have Hamas that are executing hostages hours before they're them being secured or found. Okay, Swifties, we're going to talk about you. And you know what? Let's just shake it off. Let's talk about it. Who do voters really like? Taylor Swift. That's right. A new Monmouth University poll shows that 53% of voters support Taylor Swift's Get Out the Vote efforts, although this number has dropped by 15 points since February. This decline in support is tied to a conspiracy theory suggesting the Super Bowl was rigged in favor of Kansas City Chiefs to promote Swift's endorsement of President Biden, a theory that has been debunked. Despite the decrease, Swift's initiative still garners significant backing, especially among Democrats. Of course. Why wouldn't they? I mean, Waltz is constantly, talking about the Swifties now. Swift's relationship with Kansas City Chiefs player Travis Kelce has added to the media spotlight. However, rumors about her involvement in a political conspiracy related, why am I talking about this? How crazy is this? Oh, yeah, the Chiefs' Super Bowl victory diminished the enthusiasm of her political engagement. Here's the interesting thing is, she was purposely not coming out and saying who she was going to vote for during that time. She is a girlfriend who is supporting her boyfriend who was in the Super Bowl. That was her role. She just happens to be a mega, mega, mega superstar. The Monmouth poll highlights this shift with support from Republicans dropping from 41% to 20% and from independents falling from 73% to 52%. While Swift continues to enjoy widespread support among Democratic voters, Republicans have long been wary of her political influence. The Monmouth poll director noted uncertainty about whether Swift's influence could sway the portion of her fan base that leans conservative. This tension between Swift's popularity and political involvement highlights the challenges celebrities face in influencing a divided electorate. Despite the decline in support from some groups, Swift recently endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, actually right after the debate. She tweeted that out, or Instagrammed it out, whatever you call that, posted. Her endorsement was shared with her 283 million Instagram followers, urging them to register to vote. Swift's call to action led to a surge in voter registrations with more than 330,000 people visiting the voter information site in less than 24 hours. However, Swift's endorsement may not have a major impact on voting decisions. An ABC News East Coast poll indicated that 81% of respondents said her support for Harris would not influence their vote. Only 6% said they were more likely to vote for Harris, while 13% said they were less likely to support her because of Swift's backing. The Monmouth University poll was conducted from September 11th through the 15th with a sample of 803 voters, and it has a margin of an error of, let's say, 4 percentage points. Despite the drop in support for Swift's political efforts, her influence in motivating voter participation remains substantial, particularly among younger and Democratic-leaning voters. It is interesting because, yes, her influence has dropped. Yes, there's probably some backlash for those that are conservative leaving or MAGA, especially from MAGA. One thing I will say, it should not matter who a celebrity is voting for. That should not be the influence to you. The main reasons to vote is one, it is a great privilege that we have the right to vote. And vote with your conscience. Vote for what is in the best interest, not only for yourself and your family, but for this country. Because one thing is for sure, we need to regain our power, the people's power, to be governed by the people. That is what we're voting for. So as Taylor Swift said, do your own research. Get out there, vote. Yes, register to vote. Do your own research and vote your conscience. It should not be about whether George Clooney or Yankee Daddy or even Swift is voting for such and such. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we will be wrapping up with some economic news.
Investing in real estate doesn't have to be a pipe dream, but how do you find, analyze, renovate, finance investment properties without getting ripped off. My name's Andrew Glisson. In 4 short years, me and my team built a portfolio of 200 rental properties in multiple cities as a hobby while working full-time. We took all of that experience and built a mentorship program called the Victory Strategy to unlock every step of investing in real estate. If that sounds like the opportunity you've been waiting for, look us up at thevictorystrategy.com.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve made a notable policy shift by cutting its benchmark interest rate by a half a percentage point. This marked the first rate cut in over 4 years, which is huge. It's a significant move after a prolonged period of high rates aimed at controlling inflation. The rate reduction brings the key rate down at approximately 4.8% from a decade high of 5.3% that persisted for 14 months. The Fed's decision reflects a new focus on boosting the job market, which has shown signs of slowing down. This rate comes just weeks before the presidential election, potentially altering the economic landscape as voters prepare to cast their ballots. Now, the central bank's decision follows a period where inflation, which peaked at 9.1% in mid-2020, has significantly, which is because of the pandemic, has significantly decreased to 2.5% as of August. Although this is close to the Fed's 2% target, the central bank's actions aims to address remaining economic challenges and support continued economic stability. The Fed has also indicated that it plans to further reduce rates by another half point in its final meetings of the year, scheduled for November and December. Looking ahead, policymakers project additional cuts in 2025 and 2026. This approach suggests a commitment to maintaining economic stability while navigating potential risks such as rising unemployment, which is expected to increase to 4.4% by the end of this year and remain steady through 2025, which honestly is rather, it is still low, especially if you were to compare it to like 2009 during the Great Recession, where it was capping up over 12%. Fed Chair Jerome Powell defended the decision, rejecting claims that the central bank had acted too late or that it was politically motivated to help VP Harris. He emphasized that the rate cut is a timely measure aimed at sustaining economic health and not a political maneuver. Powell reiterated the Fed's commitment to ensuring maximum employment and price stability, distancing the central bank from political influences despite potential criticisms from former President Trump. The rate cut is anticipated to lower borrowing costs for mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards, potentially stimulating consumer spending and economic growth. Mortgage rates have already fallen to an 18-month low to about 6.5%, encouraging refinancing and boosting demand. This move is expected to benefit homeowners and businesses, helping to support economic activity amid slowing job growth and rising unemployment. This is also keeping in track to like the British National Bank cutting their interest rates, which they have been doing consistently over the past 6 months, and the Feds here, the US Feds, were not doing. So it is actually now starting to equalize. The Fed's decision also marks a departure from its previous aggressive stance on inflation, which included raising rates 11 times in 2022 and 2023, just last year. The current economic environment reflects slower wage growth and falling oil prices, suggesting that inflationary pressures may continue to ease. However, the decision to cut rates faced dissent from board member Michelle Bowen, who preferred a smaller rate reduction, highlighting ongoing debates within the Fed about the best approach to managing the economy. Now, investors, stock analysts still don't know quite whether this 0.5 percentage point, which is actually a big cut, how that will affect the stock market and futures. And America's inflation fight is ending, but it's leaving a legacy. So after Wednesday's benchmark cut by the Federal Reserve of the interest rate by a substantial 0.5 point, marking its first reduction in over 40 years, this move represents a significant shift from a prolonged period of high rates designed to tackle inflation, which has also made borrowing costly for consumers. The rate decrease, lowering the key rate to about 4.8% from a peak of 5.3, aims to address signs of a slowing job market, especially as the presidential election approaches, potentially influencing that economic landscape for voters. The central bank's action comes after inflation has significantly decreased from the peak of 9.1% in mid-2022 to 2.5% as of August. Despite this progress, inflation remains slightly above the Fed's 2% target. The Fed's decision also reflects a readiness to continue adjusting monetary policy, with signals indicating additional rate cuts in the upcoming meetings this year and further reductions projected for 2025 and 2026. Jerome Powell, the Fed's chair, indicated that while the central bank is encouraged by the progress made in controlling inflation, they are not declaring victory. Powell emphasized that the rate cut is intended to maintain economic stability and prevent further damage, given the current state of the job market and inflation. This new policy approach is designed to balance economic growth while keeping inflation under control. And although the Fed's rate cut aims to improve borrowing conditions for mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards, they're supporting consumer spending and business investment. Many Americans still face high prices for essentials. And let's just recall, and I've shared this numerous times, the inflation rate does not include groceries. They do not include gas. So though inflation is going down and is decreasing, the prices at the supermarket are still hitting Americans hard. And Michelle Bowen dissenting, saying that it should have been a smaller rate. This dissent highlights the ongoing debates over the Fed's strategy in managing the economy. The rate cut also comes amidst criticisms from President Trump, who has accused the Fed of political interference, a charge that Powell has firmly denied. Looking forward, the Fed will focus on preserving the health of the labor market and mitigating potential negative impacts from previous high interest rates. We already seen that the mortgage interest rates are lowering. However, the real estate market has also slowed significantly. And this strategy reflects a shift from its earlier aggressive stance on inflation with a continued emphasis on management. So now we are in management mode. We're no longer in crisis mode. And now coming up to yet another sky is falling crisis mode, government spending bills. Yes, we love talking about these. At least this time we got a 6-month reprieve since March. On Wednesday, the House of Representatives failed to pass a GOP government funding plan that included a contentious provision aimed at non-citizen voting. You know how they like to stick some pork fat into a budget bill, something that has nothing to do with the budget? Well, both sides do it. It's not just GOP. Democrats do it all the time too. But this time it was the reason why it got stalled out. So a priority push by Republican nominee and former President Donald Trump to aiming at the Non-Citizen Voting Act, which basically requires proof of citizenship for voting or for registering. The bill, which sought to extend government funding for 6 months, was defeated with a vote of 202 to 220. The outcome highlighted significant divisions within the Republican Party, with 14 Republicans opposing the bill and 2 Republicans voting present. The defeat leaves Speaker Mike Johnson facing a looming government shutdown at the end of this month, as current funding is set to expire. The proposed legislation included the SAVE Act, which would require proof of U.S. citizenship for voter registration in federal elections. Although such measures are already prohibited by law, the bill was a key demand from Trump, who has emphasized election security. Following the defeat, Johnson has not yet outlined his next steps, but indicated he is exploring alternative strategies to address the funding issue and prevent a government shutdown as of October 1st. With the potential shutdown approaching, a clean funding extension without additional preventions is considered by many as the only feasible option, which, wow, news alert. Deal with spending only and not add other non-conforming issues within the spending? There's a novelty. However, Trump has intensified his calls for a shutdown if the GOP's election security measures are not included. Now, this is going to come on, Trump, just do what you need to do, Congress. You know, you guys have a job, and it's not towing the line for Trump. It's not towing the line for Biden, towing the line for Harris. It is doing your job. You were voted to govern. This is your job, your main job, budget and security. In response to the failed vote, Johnson expressed disappointment but remained committed to finding a solution. He noted ongoing discussions with colleagues and possible alternatives. Now, Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader, criticized the failed GOP plan, suggesting it would only lead to deadlock and advocating for a bipartisan approach instead. Since this failure, which, by the way, 3 Democrats voted in favor of this, the hope is, and what it seems like there is some consensus, that this will allow for a bipartisan, unified measure in getting a spending bill in, at least a CR, to go through December 24th. We will be continuing to focus and monitor the situation with the government spending bill. I am Alina Gonzalez-Dockery. I want to thank you for joining me for yet another exciting episode of Purple Politics. And we will see you next week as Countdown Election is running down. I'm wishing you all a great weekend and good night.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Artritis, inflamación, reuma, dolores articulares, dolores musculares, dolores, muchos dolores, una solución. Be Miracle, el milagro de vivir sin dolor. Hace más de 2400 años, los griegos descubrieron los poderes desinflamatorios de la apitoxina, el veneno de las abejas, que es 100 veces más poderosa que la cortisona, pero sin sus efectos secundarios. Be Miracle, la fórmula original con apitoxina 100% natural, el milagro de vivir sin dolor.
Yo me acostumbré a vivir con dolor y con alta presión. Fue como un milagro. Empecé a tomar la capsulita de veneno de abejas y se me calmó el dolor. Mi presión está normal y hasta el carácter me cambió.
A nosotros nos gustaba pasear, caminar, bailar, ir a la discoteca, pero nos llegó la artritis y nos arruinó todo. Y ahora, tomando una capsulita diaria del veneno de la abeja, volvemos a disfrutar de la vida.
Y gracias a este milagro podemos ser felices.
B-Miracle frena la artrosis, rejuvenece las articulaciones, desinflama y elimina el dolor. Ya basta de dolores musculares, ya basta de dolores articulares, ya basta de sufrir.
Con una cápsula diaria del veneno de abejas, volví a vivir sin dolores.
B-Miracle. Llame ahora y reciba 2 meses de B-Miracle en oferta especial. Ordena 2 y recibe 3 meses de tratamiento. Pero si llama ahora mismo con su orden, recibirá la crema B-Miracle de acción inmediata completamente gratis. Para ese dolor rebelde y localizado que a veces aparece. Pero tiene que marcar ahora. B-Miracle. Una cápsula por día. El milagro de vivir sin dolor toda la vida.
Investing in real estate doesn't have to be a pipe dream. But how do you find, analyze, renovate, finance investment properties without getting ripped off? My name's Andrew Glisson. In 4 short years, me and